I guess just getting to the big one. We kind of mentioned it offhand during the Oricon list, but by the time you are listening to this episode, the Promise Neverland will have ended in issue 28 of Shonen Jump with I don't know how many chapters.
Chapter 181.
Thank you. Yeah, and I gotta be honest, I'm very behind on the Promise Neverland.
Well, a lot of people have been just kind of begging for Promise Neverland to end already. Like, we're very disappointed in the direction it took in the final arc and the way it has wrapped things up. It's true and a cheap kind of, oh, here's a consequence, except not really thing in, like, the latest chapters that I've already seen spoilers. Basically, it does not matter at all in the actual final chapter. So it's like, it had a very neat ending, but it also felt very unearned because basically by the end of the series, like, everything just worked out for all the characters just due to kind of cheap conveniences. And it was just frustrating to read because also the conflict just became uninteresting because of how easy things went and because of how uninteresting the antagonists were.
See, that's a real shame because, like, and I mean, we're gonna do a Promised Neverland episode at some point. We've been wanting to do one for a while, but it just kind of got to a point where, like, you know, announcements of the final arc started popping up, and we were just kind of like, oh, well, we might as well just wait till this ends, you know? But now that it's ended, I would like to do, like, what we're doing with Food Wars soon, maybe give it some time to spend away from Promised Neverland and, like, come back to it at some point. But right now, I mean, like I said, I'm behind on it, so I'm not, like, 100% on, like, what's going on at the moment, but from what I've been hearing, yeah, like, even before I started kind of getting behind on it, you know, we for our patrons, you know, we kind of talked a little bit about how we felt about the Promised Neverland on our end of Jump year special at the end of 2019 there. If you're a patron, you listen to that. But yeah, we kind of talked about it. I've been feeling kind of on the Promised Neverland for really the past year, honestly. Like, I really think ever since the whole, like, Demons Are People 2 thing started popping up, which I'm still kind of collecting my thoughts on that.
I mean, that was obvious from, like, kind of the start, the Demons Are People 2 thing, right? I mean, that's an obvious direction for the story to take. I don't think that's a bad thing.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I still don't know if I feel like it was 100% earned, honestly. And that's the kind of thing I want to see how I feel on a reread.
Well, they don't explore, like, the conflict in an interesting way. That's the thing, right? I mean, yeah, obviously the demons are people too, in the sense that, yeah, they have their own lives. They have, like,
and that should be an interesting concept.
And the conflict is like, oh, the demons need to eat, you know, human flesh, you know, to maintain their bodies and to maintain, like, their own, like, minds. But no, actually, they don't need to do that because there's this easy solution where they don't have to eat people that they can just use instead. And, oh, we sort of have an idea where we can comment on how the wealthy hoard resources to keep people in line and in conflict with each other in order to maintain this hierarchical structure in society where they can keep the power at the top by denying, like, the lower class resources and stuff and keeping them in conflict. But no, we can just also have that whole issue be resolved very easily by a speech by a character coming out of nowhere, convincing a crowd that at one moment was so very eager to see a bunch of characters die, and then, like, in one chapter, in the span of one chapter, one speech, they're like, oh, now you should become our queen. We wanted to have you executed at the beginning of this chapter, but now by the end of this chapter, we realize you were wrong. We want you to be our queen. It's just so convenient.
What an easy crowd.
Everything that happens. Yeah, like, the character writing in the series, like, it's observations of power structures. It just really fell apart.
Yeah, I mean, Promise Neverland I'm also kind of sad about because, like, man, we've been reading the series for almost as long as we've been podcasting on Manga Mavericks. So like,
yeah, I mean, the series started within the first year of us podcasting. Like, we started in January 2016. The series started in August 2016. Like, Demon Slayer was like the first jumpstart we ever covered, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. But like, Promise Neverland was really early in the run, and we had so much high hopes for it. Like, we were really invested in that first arc of the story and where it could go, and everyone thought it could be like the next big thing. Like, it's this next huge,
it was pretty big for a while,
like Hevel kind of story. But it just completely derailed in this final arc. I feel like I'm not even as negative on it as some people, but like, I think it completely dropped the ball on so many things in a really unsatisfying way.
Yeah, and honestly, it kind of makes me look forward to when we do an episode on this eventually, because I really feel like we could definitely spend an entire podcast talking about the Promise Neverland and, you know, how it started compared to how it ended. I think that'll be a really interesting conversation. But again, it's also the kind of thing where, like, honestly, I'm like 2 months behind on it. Like, I don't even know if I want to finish it. Quite honestly, I might just kind of wait until we podcast about it, which is kind of sad. I'm sad that I'm not more excited about the ending of Promised Neverland, but I'm just kind of not at this point, which is really disappointing.
I'm surprised you haven't seen any spoilers.
I've been pretty good about staying away from spoilers. Maybe like one minor one, but I don't want to say it here. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very okay with taking a break from the Promised Neverland, which is not something I thought I'd be saying, 4 years later.
Yeah, it's always sad when a series that, starts off so strong and everyone, is super into and super believes in kind of just, falls off by the end to the point where, like, the people who are once, like, praising it so highly and so supportive of it are just wishing that it just would end already. It's very sad when that happens. And
oh, yeah, for sure.